Truth by the Marquis de Sade. What is this helpless and sterile fantasy, that deity that preaches to the fool? An obnoxious mass of impostor priests. Do they want to put me among their followers? Ah, never, I swear, and I'll keep my word, never this weird, disgusting idol, this child of delirium and derision will make the slightest impression on my heart. Happy and glorious with my epicurism, I intend to die within atheism, and that the infamous God that they want to alarm me be conceived by me only to blaspheme him. Yes, vain illusion, my soul hates you, and to convince you better here, I protest, I wish that one moment you could exist to enjoy the pleasure of insulting you better. What is indeed this dreadful ghost, this God's gown, this terrible being, that nothing offers to the eyes nor shows to the mind, that the fool fears and whose wise man laughs, that nothing paints in the senses, that no one can understand, whose savage cult at all times spread more blood than war, or Themis in wrath could not pour it among us in 1,000 years? I might analyze it, this villain deific. I may study it, my philosophical eye sees in this pattern of your religions that an impure assemblage of contradictions, who gives in to the test as soon as it is considered, that we insult with pleasure, that we brave, that we insult, produced by fear, born by hope, that our mind could never conceive, becoming in turn in whose hands it is built an object of terror, joy, or vertigo. Let the cunning impostor who announces it to the humans rule as he wishes on our sad fates, which he painted sometimes mean and sometimes debonair, sometimes slaughtering us or being our father, by always lending it to him according to his passions, his manners, character, and opinions, or the forgiving hand, or the one that pierces us. There he is, that stupid God whose priest is mocking us. But by what right is he who is bound by falsehood? Does he intend to subject me to the error that is affecting him? Do I need the God that my wisdom abjures? To vindicate the laws of nature, in her everything moves, and in her creative bosom acts at any time without the assistance of a motor. To this double embarrassment, did I gain anything? Does this God of the universe prove the cause? If he creates, he is created, and I am always uncertain, as before, to adopt his appeal. Run away from my heart, infernal fraud. Yield and disappear to the laws of nature. She alone has done everything. You are nothing but nothing, whose hand came out of us one day by creating us. Vanished, you execrable chimera. Run away from these climates. Give up the earth, where you will see only hardened hearts to the lying jargon of your pitiful friends. As for me, I agree, the horror that I bear you is both so right and so great and so strong with pleasure, God vile with tranquility. What am I saying? With transport, even with pleasure. I'll be your executioner if your feeble existence could offer a point to my dark revenge. And my arm with charm would go to your heart from my aversion to prove you right. But it would be in vain if we were to reach you, and your essence escapes anyone who wants to compel it. Not able to crush you, at least, immortals. I would like to overthrow your dangerous altars and demonstrate. Not able to crush you, at least, immortals. I would like to overthrow your dangerous altars and demonstrate to those that a God still captivates. Let that cowardly runt that their weakness adores is not meant to put an end to passions. O sacred movements, proud impressions, be forever the object of our tributes. the only ones we can offer the cult of the true wise, the only ones in all times who relish their heart, the only ones that nature offers to our happiness. Let us yield to their empire, and let their violence, captivating our minds with no resistance, make us with impunity the laws of our pleasures. What their voice prescribes is sufficient for our desires. Whatever disorder their organs cause, we must yield to them without remorse or pain, and without scrutinizing our laws or consulting our customs. Giving in to all the mistakes that their hands always dictated nature to us, let us never respect that his divine murmur, what our vain laws strike in every country is what for his plans had ever more price. What seems to man a terrible injustice is upon us only the effect of his corrupting hand. And when, according to our customs, we are afraid to fail, we succeed only in receiving the best. These sweet deeds you call crimes, these excesses that fools believe to be illegitimate, are only the deviations that please his eyes, the vices, the inclinations that delight her better. What she does to us is only sublime. By counseling the horror she offers the victim. Let us strike it without quivering, and never fear to have, by surrendering to him, committed some crimes. Let us examine the lightning in his bloodthirsty hands. It bursts at random, and the sons and the fathers, the temples, the brothels, the devotees, the bandits, everything pleases nature. It needs misdemeanors. We serve the same by committing the crime. The more our hand extends it, the more it estimates it. Let's use her powerful rights over us by constantly handing us over to the most monstrous tastes. None of them are defended by their homicidal laws, and incest and rape, theft, parricides, the pleasures of Sodom and the games of Sappho. Anything that harms the man or plunges him into the tomb is, let us be certain, only a means to please him. By overthrowing the gods, let us steal their thunder, and let's destroy with this lightning sparkle anything we don't like in a frightening world. Let us spare nothing, especially let the village serve as an example to all our black prowess. There is nothing sacred. Everything in this universe must bend under the yoke of our fiery traverse. The more we multiply, the more infamy, the better we feel it in our soul strengthened. Dubbing, encouraging our cynical attempts, step by step, each day lead us to the packages after the most beautiful years. If this voice reminds us by mocking the gods, let us return to her. To reward us, his crucible awaits us. What his power took, his need returns. Here it all comes back, here it all comes back. The whore is the mother, and we are still as dear to him as ever. Monsters and villains that good and righteous. Project of frontispiece. By constantly delivering us to the most monstrous tastes. This verse will be at the bottom of the print, which depicts a beautiful naked young man screwing an equally naked girl. With one hand he grasps her by the hair and turns her towards him. With the other he sticks a dagger in her bosom. Under his feet are the three persons of the Trinity, and under the rattles of religion. Above, nature in a glory, the crown of flowers. Author's notes. 1. It is estimated that more than 50 million people lost their lives as a result of religious wars or massacres. Is there any of them worth only a bird's blood? And should philosophy not arm itself with all the pieces to exterminate a God in whose favor so many beings are sacrificed, who are better than him, certainly having nothing more detestable than a God, no idea more stupid, more dangerous, and more extravagant? 2. The idea of a God was never born among men until they feared or hoped. For this alone is to be attributed the almost unanimity of men on this chimera. The man, universally unhappy, had in all times and places grounds for fear and hope, and everywhere he invoked the cause that tormented him, as everywhere he hoped the end of his ills. The idea of a God was never born among men until they feared or hoped. For this alone is to be attributed the almost unanimity of men on this chimera. The man, universally unhappy, had in all times and places grounds for fear and hope, and everywhere he invoked the cause that tormented him, as everywhere he hoped the end of his ills. By invoking the being that he supposed to be the cause, too ignorant or too gullible to feel that the misfortune inevitably attached to his existence had no other cause than the very nature of that existence, he created chimeras to which he renounced as soon as study and experience had made him feel their uselessness. Fear made the gods, and hope supported them. 3. The lightest study of nature persuades us of the eternity of movement in it, and this careful examination of its laws makes us see that nothing perishes in it, and that it regenerates itself unceasingly by the sole effect of what we believe that offends it, or that seems to destroy its works. But if destruction is necessary, death becomes an empty word. There are only transmutations and no extinction. The perpetuity of the movement in it destroys any idea of an engine. 4. Let us give ourselves to all things that our passions inspire us, and we will always be happy. Let us despise the opinion of men. It is only the result of their prejudices. And as for our conscience, let us never fear its voice when we have been able to soften it. The habit easily reduces it to silence and soon metamorphoses into pleasure the most unpleasant memories. Consciousness is not the organ of nature. Let us make no mistake about it. It is only the organ of prejudice. Let us overcome them, and consciousness will soon be at our command. Let us question the savage. Let us ask him if she reproaches him for anything. When he kills his fellow man and devours him, nature seems to speak in him. The conscience is mute. He conceives what the fools call crime. He executes it. Everything is silent. Everything is quiet. And he has served nature by the action that is most pleasing to this bloodthirsty nature, whose crime sustains its energy and which feeds only on crime. 5. And how can we be guilty when we only obey the impressions of nature? Men, and the laws that are the work of men, may regard us as such, but nature never. It is only by resisting him that we can be guilty in his eyes. That is the only possible crime, the only one from which we should abstain. 6. As soon as it is proved that the crime pleases him, the man who will serve him better will necessarily be the one who gives the most extension or gravity to his crimes, observing that the extension pleases him better than gravity. For murder or parricide, whatever difference men make them, are absolutely the same in his eyes. But the one who has committed the most disorder in the universe will always please him much more than the one who has stopped at the first step. Let this truth put at ease those who let go of their passions, and let them convince themselves that they never serve nature better than by multiplying their transgressions. 7. These tastes are really useful and dear to nature only as much as they spread, as they extend what men call disorder. The more they cut, undermine, degrade, destroy, the more precious they are to him, her, nature. The eternal need that she has for destruction serves as proof of this assertion. Let us therefore destroy or prevent being born if we want to be useful to her plans. So the masturbator, the murderer, the infanticide, the arsonist, the sodomite are men according to his desires, and those we must therefore imitate. 8. To impose oneself of brakes or barriers in the way of crime would be visibly outraging the laws of the nature which gives us without distinction all the beings of which it surrounds us without ever motivating any exception. Because it disregards our chains and our bonds, that all these so-called destructions are null in its eyes, that the brother who sleeps with his sister does no more harm than the lover who sleeps with his mistress, and that the father who immolates his son does no more insult the nature than the particular who assassinates an unknown on the high road. None of these differences exist in her eyes. What she wants is crime, no matter which hand commits it or which breast it is on. Note, the author translator seems to have some difficulty with the male and female pronouns he, her. We do believe these are both applied to nature as the subject. I'm not quite certain why that is.